Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Look who's back in the seat. It looks like he's lost another 20 pounds there, Big Beat. You're looking fantastic. What's been going on overseas? Fill me in.
Yeah, it's interesting. As I spent the last 3 weeks, both in Tokyo and in Switzerland, there's one common theme the whole world is taking over, and that's AI. It's AI, 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 AI. I don't even explain to you. Last year, the talk in Davos was about AI itself, right? With Sam Altman talking about Chat GPT. This year, they're talking about generative AI and what they call agentic or agent AIs, where you become an AI yourself, where they talk to each other, where it handles all of the details for you, like booking a plane for you and knowing who you are. And of course, predictive AI is not even in the bag right now. So not even talking about it right now. And I'll tell you that, listening to this new deep think, come on. It's a Chinese AI, and I don't believe anything the Chinese are saying right now. They're just saying whatever they can to, and for NVIDIA to drop as much as it did yesterday was absolutely silly because AI is still run by GPUs,
Yeah,
regardless. I don't really
and that's
understand
what I
that.
said is, I talked about it yesterday. I did buy the dip yesterday, probably a little too early, without a doubt. But my bottom line thesis is again, yeah, they didn't have enough GPUs yesterday to serve the market. Did that change overnight? Because last time
No,
I
not
looked,
at
there was
all.
still a
And they're going to
backlog.
have to. There's no company over there that's trying to be able to handle that. They need
Yeah,
NVIDIA GPUs to do that, and that's just a silly sell off.
right.
And I understood it was all algorithmic trading. So I'll also tell you the talk around the world is also Trump. Trump has captivated the world. Everybody was asking me from Germany to France to Spain. To definitely to the Asian countries, what is Trump going to do? Is he going to tariff us? Is he going to put us in the holding pen for a while? And the answer still is no. I think it's more bluster and talk than it is actual tariffs. I don't see that happening as much. You're already seeing him back off of it already. You're seeing the dollar. The dollar was strong. Look, I went into Tokyo walking around with a three-piece diamond suit on. It's like that was crazy. We're not used to that. But I will tell you that in Tokyo, I'll tell you the technology is behind. Every place I went to, the laptops were 2 to 3 years old, 4 years old. In Davos, you saw people walking around with older laptops. No one's really buying tech as we see it today. We as Americans are very attuned to buying the very latest, and I'm as guilty as anybody, buying the latest iPad, the latest computer, keeping up with technology. But that's not really happening around the world so much. Mostly it's I hate to say it, my old parents' way of saying it, but hand-me-downs, right? It's happening everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that is some of the things we've talked about here for months, especially with Michael Litt, with Stephen Flanagan all the time, is the US economy is where the money is, and consumption in other countries and their GDPs are so low that that's what you're seeing. You're right. In the US, we don't see that. We tend to be US centric. I talk about that a lot in the crypto world because
Yeah.
banking and things that we take for granted are not so accessible overseas. But I do think that that's an important takeaway. Did you, when you were in Japan, did you get any feel for this investment into the US? Any talk there? I know you were at Jetro and the Nikkei. So
Yeah, I think it's the opposite. I think it's the United States investing into Asian markets. Whereas I made this comment several times to JPX, Japan Exchange, Nikkei, that it's very easy for someone in the Asian markets to invest in our markets. And if it's the first time in 20 years that more investment money is now in the New York markets than there is U.S. money in the U.S. markets. That's always a bad sign, by the way. That's always it's always a big telltale
I
sign.
brought that up yesterday. I
Oh,
saw
you
that
did?
article. Yeah, brought that up yesterday that this is, we're seeing that investment into US stocks at all-time highs from around the world. And
Yeah.
that, like you said, because when they leave, it's a vacuum.
It's a vacuum, and they all leave together too at the same time.
Yeah.
And the ticker tickers, I always say, right? I want to be the person that's standing at the door when they come in. I want to be the person standing at the door when they go out, and that's happening now. Now, with that being said, foreign markets are struggling right now, right? We know that the Nikkei is struggling. We know that European stocks are struggling. Why? Because there's really not any new, and I always say this a million times, and I've been kind of harsh on Apple, which I think is not the case anymore, is the push to the next level of what are we doing next, right? What's the next level of this? And you saw the very second that Deep Think came out that our markets fell. I still don't really understand why. $6 million to build an AI like that? No, I know what AIs cost to build. I'm building one now, as we know. So look, let's talk about that from the perspective of the rest of the world. If you look at all of the AIs that are being built, and I mentioned this at Davos. I had a speech at Davos Lodge, and I said, look, at the turn of the century, there were roughly about 120 car companies as we were building new cars out. But over the next 10 to 15 years, it got narrowed down to about 5 good car companies in the United States, and then 1 in Germany. 2 actually ended up being 2 in Germany then, and maybe 1 or 2 in Japan over the next 30 to 40 years. The problem that we saw was that there was no interstate highway. So these cars were not designed to go more than 5 or 10 miles, and they got you got 2 miles to the gallon. So gas was hard to find. You couldn't really go anywhere, and it was really a rich person's game, right? It's the same thing happening now, right? We're seeing that now. We're only seeing write me a poem, write me a song. Most people don't even know how to use ChatGPT yet. They don't know how to. There's only a few of us that are actually using it as agent AIs. I'm using mine as agent AIs now. But we're not seeing that yet. I want to see the interstate highway where they're all talking to each other, right? Where if I have ChatGPT and somebody else has WeChat and somebody else has,
that's the game changer that I talk about. Smart cities, that whole thing. When IoT, Internet of Things, they're communicating on their own from each other. We're not at that spot yet, but that's where we're getting. It's funny because we sort of laugh at the commercial, and no one really looks at it as being real. But that Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson Salesforce one where he's in the rain eating, and he says, my AI agent didn't know that it was going to rain, so it didn't change my reservation, and it didn't know I don't like shrimp, so it served me this. That's where we're moving towards every day more and more, where it's going to talk. You're going to be talking to me and saying how we want to go for Mexican food tonight. And at the same time, in the background, our AI agents will be talking to each other to pick the restaurant, make the reservation through OpenTable, communicate what our likes and dislikes are. Literally, all of that information and data will get stored in there. So, and the amount of chips, that's why the other part that I keep on harping on here is don't believe the hype. I don't believe China, whatever they say. So saying that it only costs X amount to make it, don't believe that at all. Chips are going to be such a part of our future.
Yes. And when you talk about Trump, and I know that was a big key part of it, I had to listen to what and Marco Rubio was saying as Secretary of State, is that they do not support Taiwan independence. So you're already seeing where this administration is bending to the will of China already. And those Taiwan chipsets, they might get made in China. So look, we already know that China already has my social security number and my phone number and where I live. We already have theirs, right? The world's getting closer and smaller already. So I'm not too worried about that. But what I am worried about is if China knows when I want to go driving down the road and what I'm thinking. And I don't want to give DeepSeek any of that information to them.
We saw that immediately yesterday across. I will give credit to the mainstream media. They did have senators and Congress people on from both sides of the aisle, and that alarm seems to already have been sounded. If they were worried about what we were watching on TikTok, do you think they're not going to be worried about these AI involved in our everyday life? I've made it clear to people also on the show yesterday, I will play with DeepSeek at some point. I have not yet, but I'm loading it on an old computer that's not connected to my crypto.
You'll have an air gap, I guess, in a lot of ways, right? Yeah.
VPN.
I will tell you, I will never download DeepSeek. You can quote me on that. I have no need for that. Because why? Because the United States is leading in AI. We already have ChatGPT. We've got Dolly, Wally, you name it. We've already got them all. Why do I need to go to another country and do that? Now, will I need to do that for other parts of Quasar as we grow the infrastructure out? Yeah, probably, but I won't be using China's AI for right now. And
as you know, one of the advantages we offer that you've been clear about is we got our data straight from the exchanges.
Correct.
You get your stuff from NASDAQ, from Fred, from Edgar. We're not parsing that through a third party like a lot of AI systems are. We're getting that data directly, so you don't get the hallucinations. You know where it came from.
Good point. Was I use ChatGPT and I said, give me all of Trump's latest executive orders, and one of them was he signed up for NATO. What?
Yeah.
When I put it into our system, the opposite happened, right? Because I want real data. I don't want fake data. I want real news that's really happening. And so, the chances of China giving us fake data through their AI is extraordinarily high.
Probably 1,000%.
Yeah, I wouldn't even begin to touch that. I will tell you that there's a few things that I saw in Tokyo that I thought was really good. The crime rate is extremely low. You saw the same in Switzerland, whereas our crime rate is very high here in the States. No, it's not because of because of the borders and all that. It's because of the crackdowns, right? You see that in the militaristic styles of police departments, but it's also culture, right? We don't have the same culture that they do, and so because of that culture, they're very, very, very slow in change. But once they make that change, it sticks, and I like that a lot. And so what you're seeing is, I've never seen streets in my entire life this clean. I haven't been to Tokyo in about 15, 20 years. So it was nice to see it again the way that I do. And I'll tell you, they are still sticking with the old ways of doing things, going to the Shinto shrines. Religion's still a part of their lives.
Tradition, too. Just tradition.
Tradition, yeah.
You do see that overseas a lot more than you do in the U.S.
Yeah.
There. Looking at the markets, durable goods, bad economic data to start the day. Not, we were up a little bit higher earlier here. I'll start to share my screen here. But I do see QQQ now back down around 514.75. We are seeing, I didn't have my screen to share. We are seeing a little bit of a bounce back today. Are you expecting to see a mean reversal today where we get a little bit of a move back to the upside?
Yeah, my phone blew up yesterday with deep. Even though I was trying to sleep a little bit, I can tell you that everybody's worried about the markets. Algorithmic trading and zero DTEs have taken over this market. Now, here's a good prediction: zero DTEs are going to fail in less than 3 years.
Whoa, write that one down.
Write that one down, because quite frankly, we're seeing a resurgence of people realizing just how much money they're losing in the zero DTEs, where the machines are taking the money from people who don't really understand zero DTEs. So you're going to see a huge slip in that number of people using zero DTEs. I say a huge slip. I mean like it's going to crash. And it may happen sometime in the summer, maybe in the fall, because they're still using it as a protection. But no, zero DTEs might not even be a thing 3 to 5 years from now. We might be just going back the way that used to be. They'll still be around, but they won't be the levels that we are trading.
Do you think there's traders will also? I see a lot of them switching to futures too.
Correct. That's what I've been saying. Futures will be huge. That's right.
Yeah, I do think there's no PDT rules. There's, it's easier. Unfortunately, leverage is built in almost like crypto to it, unfortunately, but it just seems to be one there. I do want to bring up crypto markets. Obviously, while you were gone, we went up, we went down. Nothing scary, like you said, about the markets in general that has scared me or spooked me at all. What I did take away, my takeaways are 100,000. Anything below that becomes a buying opportunity at this point. But I've been pointing out every morning where we sort of sit with open interest and the leverage there. Glad to see finally people took the pedal off of the metal there, so to speak. Leverage came down overnight. Our open interest dropped back down a little bit, and we only saw $250 million in liquidations, whereas yesterday we saw.
Let me tell you, the whole world is talking about crypto and Bitcoin. Every place I went to talked about Bitcoin. People who are selling Bitcoin right now are probably people that are long-term holders that probably are trying to get some. Look, I said this when they when the Silk Road guy, Ulbricht got out. I said this, look, he's probably going to sell some to have a little big party, right? He's going to sell a lot of that Bitcoin that he had from Silk Road. You're going to see that. But countries and banks are buying crypto hand over fist. So anybody selling here, to me, is absolutely silliness. I said this back around when the Bitcoin was around 20,000. That's absolutely silly. I'm saying it again. If you're selling crypto, okay, I get you, maybe trading it or whatever, and you're selling it at 300-500x silliness again. We are going to $1 million. I've talked to people over the last 3 weeks who absolutely hated Bitcoin. As you know, I spoke to Ray Dalio personally. And you know what? I said, he's waving the flag, yay. And he said, no, it's not my thing. I'm not really waving. but I own a lot of Bitcoin. Or I own a little.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I own a little bit for me. But what's that mean? Yeah, he owns $2 billion in Bitcoin. I mean, the guys, look, these are people who I mean, when you look at Warren Buffett calling it rat gut poison and all that nonsense, some of the banks that Buffett now owns, like Bank of America, actually owns Bitcoin. So indirectly, he owns Bitcoin. So I think that is one of the things I heard a lot of over the weekend. Listen, I will tell you that altcoins will consolidate. I think I'll use the same analogy of hundreds of car companies at the turn of the century. We start to consolidate that. We're going to see the same thing, right? We're not going to see thousands of Mickey Mouse, Pluto / Obama / Pepe coin all the time. They're just going to fail, right? It's pump and dump, and people are tired of it. They saw the Trump coin go up, Trump coin go down, Melania coin go up, Melania coin go down. It's rug pull city. And people are going to get tired of, like I said, the zero DTEs, they're going to get tired of getting rug pulled on them. They're going to start to feel like, you know what? These are my hard-earned money that I've actually earned. I don't really want to keep putting money into the market that I don't really understand. That's great. Put it into Bitcoin.
I hope so. I don't have as much faith as you in that the people learn. There always seems to be a new kid down the block every day.
I get it. There's always a sucker born every minute. But the truth of the matter is, look, we're seeing where the buyers are. We're seeing where the sellers are. We know that. It's on the chart. You can see it right in front of you right now. Anything under 100, you've already said that, is a buying opportunity. I'll tell you what's interesting to me is Michael Saylor is selling off his own stock to buy more Bitcoin. He continues to sell off his own. I can see that. I don't think he even cares about his company as MicroStrategy anymore. I think what he wants to do is just be the bank himself and own it.
As I've mentioned, just like the titans that built the U.S., Rockefeller, Carnegie, those guys, he wants to monopolize basically as closely as he can the Bitcoin. If he could have it all, he'll take it all.
Yeah.
There is no doubt there. It will be interesting. I did see an article from our boy Matthew Tuttle at Tuttle Capital today talking about the tax bill that could cause some issues with MicroStrategy. I'm going to do a little bit more research before I talk through it here.
I'm not too scared about that. Look,
no, because they made it clear that an exemption should be on the way. He's been hanging out with the DJT a lot. He knows how to grease those wheels. He did it during the .com bubble. He's lived through these things already.
And let's be honest, it's based on a Biden rule anyway. And Biden rules, let's be honest, the Biden rules, every executive order are gone. If they're not gone yet, they'll be gone by the end of next month. I've never seen a president move so fast in my entire life. This guy is writing executive orders faster than he could type them up. And if you know how it all works in the executive orders world, I do. I've written several of them. I can tell you that it's a process. And you have to finagle it, and as I call massaging it before you get the right executive order in there. But you can bet you're behind that all of Biden's executive orders are pretty much gone. Everything's gone, and this is a new world that we're living in, and we need to understand the new world that we're living in, and be a part of it, right? And so,
and play the hand in front of us as one of BigBeat's rules of trading. Starting to take a look here through some of our morning stuff. Natural gas back down around 360. So, while you were gone, I did advise everybody when it got up to that 450 level you talked about to short it. We can see how well that worked on that move. It's down around 360 here again. I've been telling people it's sort of mean no man's land until we get back down towards that $3 level where I would maybe play it again. Is that sort of your feeling here?
I would say no now because the cold weather is over. I went to Davos with 20,000 pairs of long underwear, and I didn't even need half of them this time around. Why? Because a week later. But second reason, look, if you don't believe it, I don't care if you don't believe it or not. Climate change is actually happening. We're seeing it specifically happening in colder climate areas, Greenland. All of a sudden, we're seeing parts of Greenland we never saw in hundreds of years. It's happening, so we need to get ready for that, right? I'll tell you something else that was very interesting is nuclear energy, right? Uranium prices have come down to an 18-year low. Why? Because, yes, we are restarting all of these uranium plants. As I was flying over all these countries, look, I saw so many nuclear power plants, windmills moving into Europe. And there's something very interesting in Norway that happened over the weekend for the first time. They have a completely 100% electric vehicles. And this is a cold climate country. So people who say, oh, electric vehicles don't work in the cold, bullshit. It's because they're not paying attention, right? It's working right now. And I'll tell you, Norway is actually winning on the electric side of things. And you're seeing them actually make more money because two things: they actually have all the oil, and they also have gone straight. They're selling oil to people like countries like us that need
They
oil.
don't need it. They use hydroelectric. The
And they
entire
use
country of Norway
hydroelectric,
is
right?
powered through hydroelectric. That's why Bitcoin mining companies, especially Mara, has done a lot of work up there. That's where Mara actually provides the heating for an entire town that surrounds their data
Yeah.
center with the excess heat to use is make steam from their Bitcoin mining machines. Yeah, Norway is amazing what they've done when it comes to harnessing and understanding the next generation of energy, but also while having an outlook of we have no problem selling gas to everybody else who needs it to fund our sovereign fund and make sure we are a strong country.
Yeah, and that sovereign fund's pretty big right now. I saw them spending some of that in Davos as well. I'll tell you, the country is spending money in a good way is Qatar. Qatar, to some people, is Qatar. They're also spending big money too. Morocco is spending big money as well. I'll tell you, the one area of the world that I really believe is the next place where investments should be happening. And you saw it 5 years ago is China, but it's in Africa. Africa is going to be the biggest place where investment money is going to go into. And I'll tell you something else I see happening. I see on the coast of Africa, I see tourism going up. I think that these are places where people that are tired, people that like myself, that use Royal Caribbean, and I don't use Carnival, but will start to turn around and go, you know what? I've been the Caribbean so many times. I want to see something different. I've been to the Mediterranean. I want to see something different. Where can I go next? And I can cross an ocean from the United States on the East Coast and go straight to Africa and come back.
Wow.
I think you're going to see massive in the next 10 years movements over to Africa. Maybe a transit, Royal Caribbean goes over into Morocco and then starts to go down the coast of Africa. I think you'll start to see that a lot too.
That's interesting. I do think, I've seen that, you being one of the big boat people I know, but all the others too, sort of the same thing. They've done the Caribbean. They're maybe doing, Alaska or the Mediterranean ones that you mentioned. I will point out RCL does have earnings tomorrow, so maybe we'll get some forward guidance there on that.
I predict they have a beat. I don't know how big of a beat, but they'll beat. They are definitely full up. The boats or the cruise ships are really moving. So yeah.
And they actually, I apologize. Their earnings are today.
Yeah,
and they just had a beat of 8.
There you go. Yeah.
So you can see that they did top line revenue was right at their estimates, and they're up about 4% or up 2% yesterday. So one of the few showing 2 days of green in a row. Man, the economic data dragging us down today. We are back almost to neutral here on QQQ. We were up 1/4 point earlier this morning. Earnings reports today. Boeing had pretty bad earnings. They lost another 5% or $5 a share, excuse me. In this thing. What do you think happens there, Steve? I know you've all been a big proponent of Boeing over the years, but man, I'm starting to lose faith.
I wouldn't. I can tell you, I just flew on several airplanes over the last month, and airplanes are starting to fall apart a little bit. And I'll tell you, one of them is United Airlines. I mean, I was in business class for one of the flights, and I was disappointed in the business class. I was like, wow, they need to really they need to clean this sucker up. What's going on here? And no, I don't see that happening at all. No, not at all.
And they are up about 4%, even with the miss on earnings and top line revenue there. Yeah. Again, they lost $5.90 a share. We're expected to lose a little over $3.22. They were looking for a little over $15.64 billion in revenue, down around 15.24. But their forward guidance looked pretty good, so it has the market moving up a little bit. I did want to take a look here at JetBlue.
And I tell you, if you want to talk about the Trump administration and the next moves, I tell you one thing that everybody's got to be prepared for, and that is M&A. you're going to see M&A absolutely everywhere within the airline industry. I mean, the things we talked about, I can see Frontier starting to merge with somebody, maybe Alaska Airlines. I can see Spirit and JetBlue starting to talk again, right? Or Spirit and Frontier. There's going to be some M&A, and it's going to come out of nowhere. So yeah, I definitely see that happening.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, we know the last administration took down, Spirit Airlines pretty badly. They're not going to recover from that. It doesn't look like. JetBlue is down about 12%, and they had an earnings beat, but they, again, forward guidance hurting them. They are projecting to have lower unit revenue and revenue per available seat mile in the first quarter. So getting hit here pretty hard, down about 12%.
It's interesting. I'm watching NVIDIA stock right now popping again here. Watching Bitcoin push back up. It's this thing's giving you a great opportunity to pick some stuff up that you might have felt like the tech stocks were pushing too high and out of place. Well, they're not there anymore. They've got that sell-off that I have been calling for, and I think it did it. I think we've done it. I think we've seen it, and I think now we can push. Yeah, there you go. 122.57, up 3.5% in NVIDIA.
Yeah,
it was slipping earlier.
Google up over 1%, Meta up almost a percentage point. Apple has continued to rebound the last couple of days after having some poor results over the preceding month. Bounced back nicely the last few days, up almost 4% this week alone. When we start to look at the Spider Select, the 11 components there, seeing a mixed bag today. XLE, technology, look to open to the upside. On the downside, consumer discretionary, consumer staples looking.
Well, energy has a problem right now. We still need energy, and the weather's trying to turn a little bit. But the dollar is just so high. We're now looking at 107.88. I see almost 108 again. I hit it. Oof. Look, that right there is a real pain on our exports of energy. When we look at it from the perspective of exporting LNG, liquefied natural gas, that's a real strain on us, right? People look like, well, I can go somewhere else and buy natural gas if your dollar is just so high, right? I had to go, when I was in Tokyo, I had to go buy a backpack just for all the stuff I bought in Tokyo because the prices were just so cheap. I bought enough chopsticks to last a lifetime, right? Because it was cheap. They were just so cheap, and when I don't always expect the Swiss franc to be very cheap, and yet it was compared to the US dollar. So, these are the things that harm us down the road. And unless Trump starts to lower our dollar a bit, we could be in trouble here a little bit the next year or so.
And we've seen it jump up by rates overnight again. The 30-year back above 4.8, the US 10-year back above 4.55, almost at 4.57 here. So we are seeing rates move up.
Gold and silver,
pretty stable. Yeah, well, gold, I wanted to ask you, it cannot break 27.90. You were the one that gave me a hard time when Bitcoin wouldn't break that 100,000 point. What do you think here? I mean, it's tried it now just multiple times.
We're going to
3,000. To me, looked like it was consolidating, trying to make, it give it some ability, but it just doesn't get there, it seems.
I know I'm going to shock everybody, but gold and silver doesn't trade like a meme stock. It just takes time, right? And because of that, but look, silver is still going to $50 and gold's still going over 3,000. It just is. People are accumulating it, especially when they can't accumulate US dollars because the dollar is so expensive. They're going to accumulate metal, and they are. Again, I'll reiterate that I spoke to Ray Dalio over the week, and he says keep 10 to 15% of your portfolio in both precious metals and Bitcoin. If I would have heard him say that 10 years ago, been like, what? Especially with crypto, no way. He likes gold, right? You talk about it from the perspective of Warren Buffett, the old stalwarts on Wall Street. They just love gold, and they're not going to stop. The same things happening now with massive buying from places like Russia and China are buying gold and digging gold as fast as they can because it is a hedge against the losing in this case the ruble and the yuan. So the renminbi for the mainland. Look, I still think this is going to happen. I think the dollar is still going to continue to push higher, which is terrible for us because we're going to have a hard time selling our products, and that's going to put a big damper. And tariffs aren't going to match the dollar here right now, so we could have, and I don't want to. I'm telling you, we're going to, but I don't want to say it. We're going to have a trade war pretty soon. We haven't seen a trade war in a long time, but the trade war is coming.
That's not usually good for either side.
No.
Okay, we are getting ready to open, and we are open here. Let's take a look and see what we've got. Advanced decline opening up pretty well here, up about 854 this morning before the open. Let's see what it does here. It takes a second or two to do it. First ticks are to the downside, negative about 140 here. VIX back around 1772. I did, while you were gone last week, Steve, warn people towards the end of the week to be buying the VIX when it was at that $14, $15 range. I did do that, sold it when it was at 22 yesterday, and now we'll see what we get here today.
That's Scott and I always say, you buy it when you can, not when you have to.
Absolutely. And we are seeing the first initial move here, at least by the QQQ, slightly to the upside. SPY, QQQ, and the RUT all opening up in the green. Dow is up. There it goes into the green here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be that day today. I think yesterday's sell-off was silly, and silly money makes me money. So I bought the dip too on NVIDIA. I'm smiling this morning. Look, there's going to be some zero DTEs and craziness going on, and that's fine. Let it happen. I want to see them lose their money, to be honest with you, because we're going to go back up. We'll probably be back to $130 a share, probably before the end of the week.
And I will point out the 6 stocks that were down the most yesterday when we were talking here on the show, all in the green today. NVIDIA, Vistra, CEG, I forget what VRT is, Vertiv Holdings, GE, Verona, Marvel, all opening up to the upside. So we are seeing a reversal there on some of those.
I'll also say something else that's very interesting today, and that is Trump cutting all foreign federal aid. That, to me, if you want to cause a trade war, you want to cause war itself, there you go. It's a good way of doing it. There's a reason why we send foreign aid. I'd rather send foreign aid than send troops. It's cheaper, better, and less people die. But we are really starting to pound the table a little bit too hard here. I know that he's trying to exert dominance again, but I'll tell you that when you start to pull back foreign aid like that, things can happen.
Well, and as we've always seen, there's another country to fill that void, right? All I have to do is look at Peru, Argentina, some of the countries on the western coast of South America. Nice move up here by Invesco, IVZ, on their earnings beat here. Just came in. They are up 10% on their EPS, came in at 52 cents a share. Top line revenue, a little bit of a beat here, but is definitely jumping up here this morning, up about 5.58. Again, investment management company. They make a lot of ETFs, a lot of fixed income funds, those type of things. So Invesco moving up. We'll see if there's any more news there. RTX, another that had earnings this morning. The defense contractor is up about 4.63%. And we see that they had a nice little beat on both top line revenue and EPS, about a 5% beat on top line revenue and a little over an 11% beat on earnings per share. And that is moving up here nicely this morning. It did hit a 52-week high of 132.37 earlier this morning. Tick is moving a little bit negative here. I do see advanced decline also now in the negative here. So while tech seems to be buoying, let's take a look at the spiders here and see what sectors are bleeding away a little bit here. So we do see XLU, which is the utilities, as you just mentioned, under a little bit of attack as our strengthened dollar gives them a little bit of a harder time. We see XLB. I don't know that one off the top of my head. That is the material sector. That's down. XLY down, which is the material sector, down over 0.5 percentage point. We also see real estate, XLRE, down close to 0.5 percentage point. So technology is up pretty decently. The only other one that's up sort of significantly in any way is XLC. So it's a pretty limited move back up here this morning. We're not seeing it across the board. Communication and technology leading the way.
Coinbase just got approved, it looks like, in Argentina. I mean, you're talking about third world countries getting approval for crypto now. I mean, the unbanked are about to be banked. I mean, that's what I'm looking at.
I do want to mention, I put it into our headlines here. Karman Space and Defense filed for a $500 million IPO. So as Steve talked about, merger, acquisitions, IPOs all on the horizon. That IPO is aiming to raise up to $500 million for the California-based space and defense maker. They do provide a lot of components for our defense and military. So interesting one to keep an eye on there. Steve, any comments on, a lot of the Trump cabinet position members were confirmed over the weekend. Bessent as Treasury Secretary. Our man Stephen Flanagan's pretty positive on him, feels that he will be a good sounding board as a Treasury Secretary. Any sort of feedback there for us?
As my dad would always say, the proof's in the pudding, right? Let's see what they say and do. Scott Bessent is a personal human being, is not a good person. We know that. He's got a pretty bad background. We noticed that Trump has really, for the most part, has given people, let's say, a little more leeway with their background checks than normal. And let's see how he reacts. I'm not saying good or bad. I'd really just let him see how he acts, right? A lot of these picks are being voted in by one vote, and that's by JD Vance voting them in. And with the Senate actually has a two vote plurality, so that's telling you a lot right there. But
Bessent did have a pretty good move. It was 68 to 29. So his was.
He does. But when you're looking at positions like Treasury Secretary and Secretary of Defense and Secretary, the main ones, and you're a Fox contributor and you're the media guy, what makes you the person that's the most qualified to be that person? Is it because you wrote the biggest checks or said the biggest right things on the air? That's what we're seeing right now.
It is. Yes,
that's fine, and I'm okay with it because he is the president. He has the right to say. He has the right to pick who he wants to pick. But you're playing with fire, I've
just more been surprised that these picks have gotten in with less controversy, quite honestly, than I thought.
I'm glad that they aren't. I'm glad that there's no controversy because you know what? He won. He didn't.
Hey, he can't point. Yeah, that was a takeaway I had too. Now he can't point and say, "Well, you wouldn't let the people I wanted to run the country run the country."
Well, yes, but I also think that it's like, okay, you won the election. Look, he keeps saying that I want it so big. You
mandate, he uses
less than 1% of the election. I mean, he won states that nobody lives in. But when you look at it from that perspective, how many the plurality of electoral college votes? Okay, you are now the president. You have 365 million Americans to pick from. So is Scott Bessent the very best you can come up with? Are these people the very best that you can come up with? And I would argue that the answer is no. I think some of the people that he picked in the first administration were way better. But we're gonna see. And I don't believe in hope or luck, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So pulling up here, our biggest pump is here in the morning in the NASDAQ 100 and in the S&P Royal Caribbean, as we talked about. Steve's favorite cruise line up 6.28%. Invesco up about 5.9%. RTX, Boeing up 4.25%. Ecolab, who had earnings up 2.76%. Carnival getting a little bit of a sympathy play, up about 2.45%. So we do see a nice move up here by a significant amount of the market. Let's take a look to the other side of that and see who this morning are the biggest laggards. GM, let's pull up their earnings reports. They did report.
I like this buy here. I'm going to buy NVIDIA right here at 119, under 119 here. I'm buying it.
This is for a scalp trade, not that swing trade, or is this part of?
No, I'm going to add to my position. I like this down here. I think this NVIDIA sell-off is nuts. I am in at 118.31.
Nice.
I think people that are selling NVIDIA at this point are just absolutely silly.
Yeah, I can't argue with that one. You know, I am in my position. I did buy yesterday a couple of times, and I am set now for it. And that's more for my long-term, position. General Motors getting hit pretty hard here, down 8.45% here. And that's, again, another one that had an earnings beat on both EPS and revenue, but where their forward guidance and the obstacles, again, a strong dollar does not really help them very much.
And here's a good example. How many cars did I see overseas with General Motors?
None in Europe.
Zero. Zilch, nada, nothing. Why? Because the car is too expensive. Yeah, the car may be there, but the dollar's too expensive for us to shipping our car overseas to sell it.
Well, and as we know in Europe, that's part of Trump's big, reason for tariffs is they tariff the you-know-what out of our cars. So you never see them over there. You never really have in the last 20, 25 years.
So let's throw in tariffs on our side. Nothing happens. It's a spiraling egg and chicken, and it never doesn't work. We know that tariffs don't work. They've never worked in the history of this country, and they won't work now. So let's see NVIDIA still flipping here.
One of the headwinds that GM talked about, of course, is going to be higher labor costs that they see, and also having to make price drops on some of their models. So that is why they are dropping down here about 8.7%. Good takeaway, though. They did climb their share in U.S. electric vehicle market. They now have 12.5% of the fourth quarter sales versus 9.3% in the third quarter. So we do see them picking up at the expense of Tesla and some of the others. So Mag 7 so far here this morning. Only Apple and Meta on the green here, Steve. All the rest moving in the red. Any of the others interest you here on this dip today?
Nothing interests me. I like the NVIDIA sell-off. I see it's selling a little bit more. Zero DTEs. I think it's silliness. I have a longer-term play with NVIDIA. I know what NVIDIA is doing. I know what they're building. And I think people are selling it as just silliness.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I'm just trying to take a look to see if there's anything that is moving tremendously to the upside here across there. All the chip sector, again, getting hit down another 1% to 2% across most of the chips. ASML getting hit a little harder, down 3.15% here this morning.
Scared money.
Yeah, Marvell is up slightly. Taking a look across e-commerce, Amazon down, Temu down, Mealy still in that 1833 level. Not really that interesting to me there. Trying to see if there's any movers. Looks like Etsy and Shopify both moving up today. Both of them up about 3%. Seem to be some of the bigger winners this morning. Target up about 1.62% also. Does look like financials are gaining a little bit of steam here today, led by MUFG, which is...
Here's a stock for you. If you want to talk about nonsense and silliness we dealt with for the last 5 years. Let's look at AMC stock for a second.
Oh, God. TradingView doesn't want to pull it up for me. What'd you do to AMC? There it goes. They're like, no, you can't look at this. Do not buy.
AMC stock right now is trading $3.28 a share. What happened to all that? It's going to be the biggest thing. We're going to change the world. AMC.
That is, as you've already warned, when it comes to, I want to say this correctly, the meme stocks, the things like that, once they fall out of favor, you're done because there's nothing real behind them. So nobody else.
Now you've ruined a company. Now you've ruined a good quality company that
once the fanatics leave, there's no one left to get in there. Yeah, 328. Double bottom.
What happens with zero DTs? They're ruining companies. This is what's happening with zero DTs. They're ruining freaking companies. This is what happens when you have algorithmic tradings. They're ruining companies. They're pushing them up, and then they're selling off, and then there's nothing in there to protect it, and then they're gone. This is what's happening, and while I need to play the game in front of us, it's exactly what's happening, and you're going to see that the next 4 years even worse, and it's going to be based on toilet tweets and what's going to happen. I'm not I mean, I'm just seeing it, and it's what's happening. And I'll tell you, if we're not careful, this market may get completely out of whack, where people don't even want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with part of it. I think that everyone always wants to do it. It is still the U.S. stock markets. They are the
Is it
most
so?
sought after
I mean, you're
stock market.
seeing foreign companies, they're seeing foreign investments now more than U.S. investment money in. So is it really a U.S. market anymore?
Well, I mean, no, it's a world market. They're all world markets, right? We know that.
That's correct.
That's why the first thing we start off with almost every morning is what happened overseas in the stocks, the Nikkei and the Shanghai, right? Is because we need to watch those to see what's going on in the markets, and keep up. I will say, you've talked about it. Steve Flanagan has talked about it. I am looking to get a little of exposure into Japan. A
100%.
couple of them that are up today are SMFG, which is Sumitomo Mitsu, one of the big trading houses there. As you know, Warren Buffett's been a big fan over the years of these trading houses in Japan. And as you've explained to me, these trading houses really are more private equity. They would be more in line of what our BlackRock is and Citadel versus, what we think of. But I did do a little search using ChatGPT and then using our AI, and a couple of the individual stocks that did come up in there as ones that give you good connection are MUFG and SMFG. So two of the trading houses. Just wanted to point that out. I've been telling everybody last week I was going to do some more research there on how they could get a connection there. Clifton, how are you doing today, sir? Good to see you. Zora, good to see you again this morning. Sorry, didn't have my comments there in front of me. Hope everybody's having a good day. Markets are trying to get some steam here, but it's still not happening. We see the advanced decline sliding further to about 1,300 to the downside. VIX has picked up past 18. So we are seeing volatility click in a little bit here, huh?
Reuters now saying that Pete Hegseth now says he's made it clear that it's not just about foreign wars and foreign conflict. It's going to be about DEI. Wow. First day on the job, huh, Mr. Sir?
And I've been talking about it more and more. It's tweet analysis is as important as technical analysis. Again, I'll point out Quasar helps you with that. You've got Google Trends, Stock Twits, Twitter News, our Quasar institutional news, and everything built into the platform. And as Steve has mentioned, that's what you need to know right now. It's not just about the news from CNBC and things like that. You need to be at the place where this stuff's happening, and it happens on those sites. Tick now negative 570, Steve. So we are seeing a little more blood in the streets this morning, huh?
Yeah, you're seeing now Trump has now fired the Democratic U.S. Labor Board official. Wow.
Yeah, these inspector generals, some of these are some tough decisions where he's breaking, that's part of the Constitution. He can't just do that.
Well, he did.
He did, right?
Yeah.
But that's what we're going to find out.
Not really sure this president cares about the Constitution right now. So
no, he doesn't, and we all know he doesn't care if he gets sued. So, and that that's what we're.
But that's the world that we're living in right now. So we have to play the game in front of us. So that's what we're doing.
I do have to point out in the world of crypto, those that didn't see it, there was a sort of cryptic tweet in regards to Ripple from Elon Musk that lasted about 30, 40 seconds and then was retracted by him. So it has the sort of crypto Twitter world a buzz. It has Ripple as the biggest leader here in the red or the green.
Hearing reports now that there's a big protest in the Congo, big attack on Kinshasa of the embassy over there over conflict in the east. So that's probably not good for good for diamond prices. That should push diamond prices up.
Bitcoin staying stable above 102 here. As I said, it's been in a pretty tight range since the liquidations slowed down overnight.
Tigris Financial just came out upgrading NVIDIA to strong buy from buy. Price target now 220.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you're starting to see that now. All these companies coming in now and saying, look, time to buy. I agree. Is it time to buy? I did bought more. There's 118.34, so now in the positive on it.
Trying to go positive on the day. TSM has gone positive now. ARM, which I believe is going to be one of the big winners in these data center constructions. They make a lot of small components that go into these server and data centers.
Here we go. We're hearing
Talk about
reports
that
that
briefly.
blockchain firms are talking to Musk about Doge, evaluating blockchain tech for government efficiency efforts. That's big.
Yeah, he's talked about it. He's going to bring blockchain into the world. I mean, and I want to warn people that, first of all, not warn people, but tell people blockchain's been part of our U.S. government for about the last 6-7 years.
That's correct.
At ABCA, we helped the FDA institute blockchain for food tracing. They also used it to, for tracing COVID during the, COVID years. So blockchain has been used. It doesn't necessarily mean it will be one that's a crypto that you see. It was private permission blockchain usage.
And I think you're going to see a lot more private blockchain usage in the future too,
Yep.
where we don't really need these major companies telling us exactly what we need. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. Yeah.
Right. And it's sort of an in between is what I've always said, the idealist in crypto who feels that it's going to be completely unregulated, completely, free of intermediaries and completely free of the world of TradFi are living under a rock. It's going to be the connection of this blockchain technology, speeding up remittances, speeding up settlement times, allowing for transparency into markets that we don't have currently. There won't be the the gray markets that you have currently. You won't have black pools because you'll be able to see that data. But if you're doing stuff in a company like Quasar or, again, in the government, you'll be using a private permission blockchain.
Hearing reports now that OpenAI has launched ChatGPT plan for all U.S. government agencies. So there you go, DeepSeek. You're not going to be in our U.S. government. So I don't know what.
Yeah, we knew that. Would you? I saw Andreessen said it, and I said it yesterday because I saw it on mainstream media. Yesterday was our Sputnik moment for AI, right?
Right.
Everybody sort of had been rallying around the idea that China had fallen so far behind because we weren't giving them access to chips. Well, let's face it, China figured out pretty quickly how to get around those embargoes through shell companies and other ways to get those chips. And, they're going to be a viable competitor that we have to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're starting to see a little bit of a push here. Look, nat gas pushing back up 365 here. So maybe it's cooler than I thought it is outside. I'm kind of nice to be wearing short sleeve shirts again and not wearing.
I was going to tell you, it's still cold here in the Midwest, not as cold as it has been.
1880 now on Nvidia. I bought that at 1830. Hopefully, you guys were listening to me when I did that. I am going to stay long though. I'm not going to take some profit here. I'm going to just lowering my my entry here a little bit. I did it a couple times while I was gone. I didn't like yesterday's sell-off. I thought it was just absolutely crazy. And what it did was it wiped out all of liquidity inside of the system. So, yeah. Now I look for Jim Cramer to say something bad about Nvidia. Please do.
We can hope for that. Are you looking at any of these banks that are still getting beat down today, Steve?
Zero, zilch, nada. I don't like banks right now. Rates too high. While they're making money on their money, they're not making money by selling houses. You're seeing the housing market really take a big dip here. And I'll tell you, the big number coming up at 10 o'clock that I'm really concerned about is consumer confidence. Previous reading there was 104.7. They're expecting 105.6. But my goodness, if we don't hit that consumer confidence number, then, I think the world right now is looking at one number and one number only. And it's the showdown that we're seeing right now with Trump. Rates or keep them the same. My prediction is that they don't change; they stay the same, and we have to look at that. There's 100%. I know that the Fed watch tool is 100% that there's no change. Trump's not kidding around when he says he's going to put some pressure. Now, can he put some pressure on the Fed? No, not legally.
He'll put the pressure of the media is what he'll try to use, right?
John, you can see that in the media you can see that the Fed chair Powell does not care about the media. He still dresses poorly and he sweats. So it ain't happening, right? And let's see what consumer confidence says. If consumer confidence comes out strong, I don't think it is. I don't think people are happy right now. I tell people voted for change and they're not quite getting the change they wanted. Yeah, they're seeing some people being sent back to Venezuela, but are they really seeing the change they want to see? They want to see it fast. Now, I said it earlier this morning that this is the fastest in history that I've ever seen executive orders being written out, and all of Biden's executive orders are gone pretty much. But will we see that? Okay, then we'll see. If we see massive consumer confidence, then we'll see. But Trump's approval rating is still the lowest in history when it comes to a new president coming in, even in the second term. So are people happy? And I think the answer is still no.
Yeah, I can't argue there. I've seen that change in social media personally, where the all thumbs up from everybody sort of has started to turn, and people are pointing to the price of eggs and other things that have gone up dramatically.
Well, Trump's not a farmer, so Trump doesn't make the decision on what the price of eggs are, right?
No, and the bird flu is also,
Correct.
involved in it right now. I live in poultry land here in Ohio, and it's been a problem. Even my local neighbor that I get my eggs from, unfortunately, had to put down her chickens and said it's going to be a few weeks. So, Crypto Burb, how are you doing today, buddy? Thanks for checking in with us.
Adrian, what's going on, man?
So yeah, it's this world of living that we live in right now is fast moving. You've got to be keeping up on the news. You've got to be watching what's going on. Without a doubt, Steve.
Yeah, I'm looking at right now, Bitcoin pushing now 102.8 again. I think we get right back to 106 very quickly.
And like I said, I'm a happier component when we just consolidate. We need some price action. We need some support. Let's let those weak hands get out without a big drop, like we saw, the other day. Under 100,000 to me, buying opportunity in general when it comes to that. So I'm definitely
there. You go. Nvidia back to 119 almost here. I think it's trying to push back above it again. That was a nice buy down there at 1830. It might have been a little early on it, but it's okay. There it is, 119. There it is.
119 here. Here we go.
Yeah, I think we go back to
Mag 7 coming back. I think a couple of things that I would want to point out that you've always taught me over the years there at BigBeat. Look for quality on days like today. So look for those companies, like you said, that you were looking at a month ago and saying, man, I missed out on stock XYZ. If you felt that was the winner and you didn't have a position in there, these are the days that you put your wish list together. Take a look at that, and let's see if we can do it. Hey, everybody out there listening to us on social media, if you could do us a huge favor, hit that like button, the follow button, all that good stuff. Help us get this algorithm kicked off. We've got almost 1,000 viewers today, and we want to break that today. So let's get this moving here. We've got about 5 minutes left today. So if you could do that for us, we would all appreciate it on whatever platform you're watching.
119, 119.13 now, 119.16, still pushing here. I had a pretty good feeling that was a nice little pickup down there, and that's a nice buy down there. 119.22, there you go. Keep going.
I will say we've seen a reversal in the energy company. Beware there if you're in energy today. CEG now down 2.84%. We had seen a nice move to the upside in pre-market trading. That's getting sold off. GE Verona seeing its stock get sold off. Its early morning gains. The other thing I was going to be interested to see here was if we had any follow through by some of the companies that were actually up yesterday. We are not seeing that so far today. AT&T down a little bit, almost a half a percentage point here today after their gains yesterday. DR Horton, you talked about it. I said it when I saw the numbers yesterday. It jumped up. Housing market is not on the rebound yet. I don't know why that thing jumped up so much yesterday on sort of some fake news in the mainstream media. Quite honestly, down over a percentage point today. And then the two chip companies that had been the only ones to buck the trend yesterday, NXPI and MCHP, both in the negative today. Big earners are earnings reports, though. RCL here is up over 7% this morning. It has come down from the highs of the day. It did hit 255.29, has pulled back slightly. Vesco still up 7.5% here today. So another one that's doing really well this morning after strong earnings. Same with PWR Power, up about 1.36% here. And ADSK continuing to see it climb up here. Autodesk up about 2.11%. I do want to mention pretty poor news out of Cisco and their earnings. I talk about them, as you know, coming from the restaurant world over the years. Cisco is the largest supplier of food to restaurants, hospitals, and hotels in the U.S. They are down about 4.5% here today. Again, inflation doesn't seem to be going away was their takeaway because they had a beat slightly on both top line revenue and on EPS, but are down about 4.4%. Talking about, again, the squeeze that we are seeing here, you know, on food, you know, and the inflation still there. Tommy Fan, thank you for checking in today. We appreciate that, sir. Cisco's one of it goes down a little bit more. I would be interested in here. I was more targeting a range here in the 72, low 72 area. If it hits that area, I might pick some up. Again, I came from that world. They absolutely are the 10,000 pound gorilla in the world of food supply.
Come on, NVIDIA, 119.85 now.
We do see outside of Tesla. Does Tesla get to a point, Steve, where you start to look at it? I know you have not necessarily
120 on NVIDIA. No, I don't think so. I can tell you in Davos there was tons of Ubers and they were all at Teslas and Mercedes. But I don't see people buying new Teslas, right? I think the Teslas that you see, the deliveries are still a little bit behind. I'm not a big fan of Tesla right now. I think the only reason that people are buying Teslas is mainly because of Elon Musk and being in the White House.
You know, and for me, what I've seen is the takeaway from the U.S. car dealers is they're breaking into that market more and more. It's not, you know, huge numbers that are moving GM all of a sudden. In fact, they're down about 5%, but I see them on the streets more. Here in the Midwest, I see that Ford, you know, the pickup truck. I see the Rivian pickup truck even more than I see Teslas, to be honest.
God, is it me? But do I need to take NVIDIA for a $2 ride here? I don't know. Maybe
that's why I was asking you if that was a scalp. I know you too well, and you like to get that quick win before we get off the air here. So I would not be surprised. That's what I was saying.
All right, we're seeing numbers now.
As consumer confidence come in, I don't have it up. I apologize. Let's see if I can get that up here.
Yeah, consumer confidence coming in.
And I will say that in, you know, Market Watch helping us out here, headline, NVIDIA looks like a stock market bargain this morning.
And I want to thank everybody because right now we have 1,000 views right now on within it. So it's an all-time high here now. So
well, that's awesome. Thank you to all of our viewers. We will be back. Today is Tuesday. I have Jeremy Vreeland and Matthew Tuttle on the watch list at 11:30. I have Alan Ellman, the president of the Blue Collar Investor, back on at 12:30 with his latest interview. And then we have Scott Bauer and Prosper Trading Academy back in at 1 o'clock. So a full view for everybody today. Thank you for joining us. Big Beat will be back with me tomorrow morning. Great to have you back, big guy.